Have you ever heard of a killer who threatened an entire city with an axe, but promised to spare anyone who played jazz music? It sounds like something out of a horror movie. But for the people of New Orleans between 1918 and 1919, this was a terrifying reality. This is the story of the Axeman of New Orleans, one of America's most bizarre and chilling unsolved mysteries. Our story begins in the vibrant, bustling city of New Orleans, a cultural melting pot famous for its music, food, and lively atmosphere. But in the spring of 1918, a dark shadow fell over the city. The first known attack attributed to the Axeman happened on May 23, 1918. Joseph Maggio, an Italian grocer, and his wife Catherine were found brutally murdered in their home, which was connected to their grocery store. The scene was horrific. A bloody axe was left behind, but strangely, nothing of value was stolen. The killer had entered by chiseling a panel out of their back door. This method, a chiseled door panel, would become a chilling signature of the Axeman. The police were baffled. There were no clear suspects, no obvious motive. The Italian-American community, where most of the early victims came from, was gripped by fear. Was this a targeted campaign against them? Was it a mafia hit gone wrong? The questions piled up, but answers were nowhere to be found. Just a month later, on June 27th, the Axeman struck again. Louis Bezumer and his partner Harriet Lowe were attacked in the middle of the night in their apartment behind their grocery store. Both were severely injured with an axe. Miraculously, they both initially survived. When police arrived, they found another chiseled back door panel. Harriet Lowe, before succumbing to her injuries 2 days later, reportedly mumbled that it was a tall, heavy-set man who attacked them, but her statements were inconsistent, and she even briefly accused Louis Bezumer. The investigation grew even more confusing. The city's panic intensified. People started reinforcing their doors, sleeping with weapons by their beds, and looking at their neighbors with suspicion. The attacks were random, brutal, and seemingly Then, in August, another attack. Anna Schneider, who was 8 months pregnant, woke up to a dark figure standing over her. She was struck in the face with a lamp and found bleeding and unconscious. She survived, and her baby was born healthy 2 days later. An axe was, once again, found on the premises. The Axeman's reign of terror was escalating. The pattern was terrifyingly clear. The killer broke into homes by removing a panel from the back door, used an axe or a similar weapon belonging to the victims themselves, and then vanished into the night without a trace. He seemed to be a phantom, a ghost who could get in and out of locked houses without being seen or heard. After a few quiet months, the fear began to subside slightly. But in March of 1919, the Axeman returned with a vengeance, and this time, he decided to communicate. On March 10th, the Cortimiglia family, Charles, Rosie, and their 2-year-old daughter Mary were attacked in their home in the suburb of Gretna. Rosie was killed instantly, and Charles and little Mary were gravely injured. The scene was one of unimaginable horror. As the city reeled from this latest atrocity, a letter arrived at the offices of the Times-Picayune newspaper. A letter supposedly from the killer himself. This is where the story takes its most famous and surreal turn. The letter, postmarked March 13, 1919, was filled with boasts and taunts. The writer claimed to be not a human being, but a spirit, an angel of death from the hottest hell. He mocked the police for their incompetence and declared his intention to strike again the following Tuesday night. But then came the strangest part of all. He offered a deal. The letter stated, and I quote, "I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned." He commanded the entire city to fill their homes with the sound of jazz. If they did, he promised to pass them by. If they didn't, they would get the axe. Can you imagine the scene on that Tuesday night, March 19, 1919? The city of New Orleans, terrified for their lives, responded in the most New Orleans way possible. The dance halls were packed to capacity, and professional and amateur bands played jazz music in hundreds of homes across the city. The air, usually filled with dread, was now thick with the sounds of trumpets, trombones, and clarinets. From the grandest mansions to the humblest apartments, music blared into the streets, a citywide musical shield against a madman. And you know what? It worked. No one was attacked that night. The Axeman, true to his word, remained silent. The night of the jazz funeral for the Axeman, as some called it, became a legendary event in the city's history. It was a moment of collective defiance, a city fighting back against terror with the very soul of its culture, its music. But the relief was short-lived. The Axeman wasn't gone for good. Over the next several months, a few more attacks occurred, each one as brutal and baffling as the last. Steve Boca, Sarah Lohman, and Mike Pepitone were all victims in the summer and fall of 1919. The attack on Pepitone in October 1919 would be the Axeman's last confirmed act. Pepitone's wife saw the attacker fleeing the scene, describing a large, heavy-set man, but he was never caught. And then, as mysteriously as he appeared, the Axeman vanished. The attack stopped. The city slowly began to breathe again, but the scars and the mystery remained. Who was the Axeman of New Orleans? Over the years there have been countless theories. One of the most prominent suspects was a man named Joseph Mumford. Interestingly, He was shot and killed in Los Angeles in December 1920 by Esther Pepitone, the widow of the Axeman's last victim. She claimed he was the man who had murdered her husband, and she was never charged for the crime. While some evidence links Mumford to criminal activities in New Orleans and his description matches some witness accounts, there's no definitive proof that he was the Axeman. Other theories suggest the killings were mafia-related, possibly as a way to intimidate grocers into paying protection money. The fact that most victims were Italian-American grocers supports this idea. Another theory points to a possible sexual motive, suggesting the killer was a sadist who targeted women, with the men being collateral damage. Some even believe the letter was a prank, written by a jazz musician trying to drum up business. But despite a century of speculation, the identity of the Axeman remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of American true crime. He was a phantom who terrorized a city, a killer who struck to the rhythm of jazz. His bizarre story serves as a chilling reminder of a time when the lively streets of New Orleans echoed with both music and fear, and when a killer's strange love for jazz saved a city for one unforgettable night. The legend of the Axeman lives on, a dark and fascinating chapter in the rich history of New Orleans. It's a story that continues to captivate and terrify, a puzzle with a missing piece that we may never find. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by strange and unsolved mysteries like this one, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown. See you next time.